All right, good morning and welcome back, or rather, welcome to the discussion segment of the Good Morning Anambra right here on ABS television, where we'll be discussing the ban on indigenous languages in Nigerian schools, the implications for education and culture. Of course, we saw something like that in newspaper headlines a few minutes ago. Where we saw that, like say, a statement from the Ministry of Education, the Federal Ministry of Education, saying that, in fact, as of 2022, the Federal Ministry of Education, directed schools within the country to inculcate, the mother tongue language to educate children, especially children at the very elementary level, that's the early childhood stage, to actually, help them grow their level of education, as, they felt it will help them grow better and a whole lot of that. But very recently, this year, 2025, we saw the federal government, going back on that directive, saying that English must be the mode of communication, as subject to the fact that, according to researchers, that pupils who have learnt via English have done better, they've developed better, and a whole lot of that. But this has actually caused a lot of raw costs, especially in the field of education within the country. So that is why we will be discussing this the next few minutes. Meanwhile, it's very important to let us know that today is the International Student Day. Today we actually celebrate students, especially students who stand out for themselves, students who very much participate in struggles, for themselves, especially here in Nigeria, where we keep hearing about incessant strike. It's not to say if it's the fault of the lecturers or the federal ministry, but it's just for us to actually create balance for this, so that when students go to school, they are certain that if they go to school for 4, 5, 6 years, they graduate without any record. So to discuss this very important topic, the ban on indigenous languages in Nigerian schools, the implications for education and culture, we have with us this morning Professor Nkechinyere Nwokoye, who is the Vice President, Igbo Studies Association, and also a former member of the also the former member of UNIZIC Governing Council. Of course, she was a member of the Governing Council till this year, 2025. So it's not like it's something that happened many years ago. All right, so it's one that she and anyone who is actually associated with her will be very proud of. She also had a PhD from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Doctor of Philosophy, sometime in October 2027. Also a master's degree from the University of Nigeria, sometime in October 1997. She was, or rather, I believe, is still the HOD director. Okay, we just talked about the fact that she was a member of the Governing Council, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, from July 2021 to October 2025. She's very much connected with the month of, October, had a master's October, had a PhD October, left the Governing Council October 2025. She's also had lots of articles and, many other things. She also did write an article on, she had series of articles, but I believe she also did write something on the Nyocha Asusu Abo or something like that. I can't read that very well. But she also wrote something on the Igbo language or something like that. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers at home.
So how do you feel, having accomplished this over the years?
When one is giving birth to, God has plans for every human being. So I believe that has been God's plans for me. And he hasn't finished with me yet, because he's still taking me beyond where I am today.
Wow, that's really great.
Thank you.
That's really great to know. We also have Obi Wonye, who is also known as an Igbo evangelizer, Onyozioma Igbo. He's very much proactive about the importance of keeping the Igbo language very much alive. Mazi Ndewo.
No, she ndị ABS unu na-eme ọfụma mgbe ọbụla akpọrọ m ebe a dịka nsikwu so Igbo ka ọgụ Igbo ka m na-anọ anyị anọgidekwa n'ọgụ Igbo a ruo na njedebe nke ụwa
anyị ga na-afụ n'asụsụ Igbo nọkwa ya maka na ọ bụrụ na anyị asụrụ Igbo ọ ga-afịakwa n'anya arụ and ọfịa nwoge anyị arụ kịta ma ọ bụrụ na anyị ga-ekwukwa n'eziokwu yọtago. So let's look at the development this morning where we're talking about this very important topic, talking about the discussion of indigenous languages and instruction in Nigeria. Now, the language instruction policy in Nigeria, looking at assessing implementation and literature, or rather the literature achievement in multi-lingual environment. This was by Obiako in 2024, and a whole lot of things. How do we see this related to, this statement, or rather the policy shift by the federal government, stating that, or rather the reversal stating that, oh, you do not teach, courses going forward in Igbo language, not Igbo basically, but in the mother tongue language, but this time in English. Prof, let's start with you. Ladies first.
Let me start by saying that statement is abnormal, has no root, is unfounded, and will not stand. Reason being that mother tongue is the foundation. When a child is born, that child is brought under a foundation, and language is the crux of the matter here. I still not understand how a mother could give birth to a child. A child she breastfeeds, a child she gives food, and she will be using English language to nurture that being. It is impossible. The mother tongue has come to be, and it will continue. Though what the federal government is saying that it should not be a medium of instruction, that's another bug altogether. What we are saying is that our mother tongue should be introduced at the early stage of every child, whether in pre-nursery, whether in nursery, primary, secondary school level. I'm a professor of Igbo language. I started learning Igbo at birth. I grew up with the language. I chose it as a career. I went through secondary school, offered it in secondary school, sat for it in WAEC, got into the university to study Igbo language. And today I'm a professor of this language. And somebody is there saying that the mother tongue, whether Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba, should be scraped from the Nigerian language policy. Introducing another language, a foreign language. Must we remain under captivity? Must we remain under this colonization? I thought Nigeria has already outgrown this colonization, that we are now on our own. Our culture has come to stay, which language is the bedrock of it all. So, what the federal government is saying, they have made a policy, they have said it, but let's see how far it goes. Mother tongue has come to stay. In the primary school, a child learns faster with the native language than English. Take, for instance, there are people in the rural areas. They have not been exposed to English language. So how can you use English-only instructional method to teach a child that is born and that grows up from that remote area? Don't you think it is impossible? It's like asking a child to climb a rock or a mountain. It is quite impossible. But the federal government has said it. So let's see how far it goes. Mm-hmm. I strongly believe that it will not be as easy as they think. Because the teachers are involved, the pupils that will be taught are also involved. They are talking about global competitiveness and also exam performance. But let me tell the viewers, When you allow a child to be taught in English language, and that child goes to the village to interact with his or her grandmother or grandfather, tell me how that child will be able to communicate.
Right.
And when it comes to examination, a child goes learning English.
We'll talk about that. Of
Okay.
course, it's part of the,
Part
you
of
know,
what
yeah,
you said.
what we're going to talk about. The Igbo evangelizer, can you maka, you know, maka, if I know maka ya n'ụtụtụ a?
Daalụchi nne. Ndị be anyị sị na ụga ọ na-ada akaba mma n'oyibo. Ihe bụ ụga bụ asị. Ọ na-ada aka mma onye abụ onye ya kpụrụ wa asị ọ ya asị. Ọsụbara ya ụmụnne ya n'oyibo.
For someone who doesn't understand, saying lies are better told in English language.
Onyenwa. Ọka nkụzi ekwuchara na ya nchanụ eche na asị na ndị nwa achịchara anyị wee nyekwazi anyị ka anyị chibe onwe anyị. Ọ na-abụ na anyị burukwara onwe anyị kwa tigbukwa n'aka ndị nwa anyị si n'aka ha pụta. A na-ejekwanụ nya ahụ eje. Ọ mbọsị aka anyị na-akọrọ federal gọọmenti aka. Ọkara ruchebe ha aha ịtọ ha ji kwuo na si buruzie nkụzi. Baa na olu nne mother tongue. Anyị na-akọrọ ha aka sị dị n'ala Igbo na agaghị ha abịakọta ka Igbo wee nwee ike wee nwere ọnọdụ. Onye ka chifu ga ha kwara abalị na-abụ asịkwa ha na ihe ha fụrụ na ha afụkwazi si chigakwazi azụ were oyibo wee kụzibere ụmụazị akwụkwọ. Ebe ka a na-eje nya ahụ eje. Aha eje nya ahụ eje ọkwa ya bụ egwu na-atụ n'obodo a madụ m ebe obodo a na-eje. Amakwa m ebe obodo a na-eje ka akụzi ya na-ekwu okwu 2027. Amakwa m ebe a na-eje nke a nọ na kịta asibeghị afụbeghị isi ha na-anụ ọgụ nke aka erubeghị eru. Onwe ha asụsụ dị ka olunne. Abịa ha na mmadụ olunne bụ isi sekpụ ntị. Ihe ndị ọzọ bụ unu a na-alụkwasa na ntọnala olunne tọgoro. Ntọnala olunne tọgoro na mmadụ. Asụsụ ọzọ kpọrọ ya oyibo, kpọrọ ya German, kpọrọ ya Chinese, ọ n'olunne ka a na-alụkwasazi asụsụ ndị ọzọ ahụ mana unu abụrụgo ntọnala. Nya unu enweghọ ntọnala. Akwụkwọ nsọ so onye na-alụ ụlọ n'elu aja. Akwụkwọ nsọ so onye na-alụ ụlọ n'elu aja. Mgbe ọ rụba lụcha je bidinu ọkwọsọ ofu ikuku. So naanị ofu ikuku. Bụ kwatụsie dị n'ahịa ebe ahụ. Ekenekwa m unu.
Of course, he's very much agreeing with Professor, and you know that's it. But let's look at probably a quick summary of this development, talking about the policy statement on that development. Right, in 2022, the federal government approved a national language policy known as the NLP 2022, which mandated that from early childhood education to primary 6, instruction should be in the language of the immediate community, that is one's indigenous mother tongue. Then on the 12th or 13th of November 2025, the federal government via the Ministry of Education and its minister, Tunji Alausa, announced that they were counseling, or rather reversing the mother tongue instruction policy and making English the sole medium of instruction across all levels of education from pre-primary up to tertiary. Now, the minister specifically stated that the data reviewed showed children taught primarily in indigenous languages had higher failure rates in national examinations such as West African Examinations Council (WAEC), National Examination Council (NECO), and Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB). What does this mean? Now, it's likely it is a less ban, or rather banned by individual schools. But let me not go far into that. Let's involve our guest right here this morning to discuss this. Now, Prof, you're very much in the educational sector. What does this mean?
What does it mean? The government is trying to change their policies from time to time, but I'm still surprised why they should wake up one day and decided to cancel what has been in existence. Natural language policy has been there for years, and it has never been a problem. Like I said before, I am a professor of Igbo language. I also studied Chinese, but my foundation is Igbo language. In secondary school, primary school rather, the children are taught. Not all subjects are being taught using Igbo language in primary school. Take, for instance, Igbo course, Igbo subject should not be taught in English. It will be an abnormal. It will be an eyesore. For instance, I was in China to study Chinese language. Chinese are good at teaching every subject in their school system in Chinese language. They don't compromise it at all. It was difficult when I started, to have my Chinese lecturers to translate some of the Chinese words into English. I had to be making use of Chinese dictionary. So why should it not be so in Nigeria context? The mother tongue, let's consider these children, are pre-nursery. Let's consider them. How can a child be born and you expose him to a foreign language? Do you know a lot of things will be eroded in the life of that child? A lot of things will be eroded. I am serious. In fact, since they came up, Dr. Tunji Alausa came up with this, I personally have been praying and say, God, let him and others involved have a rethink and reverse this policy, because it will do much harm than good to Nigerian culture, not only Igbo culture, to Nigeria, because we will lose everything. That our culture will be eroded. There will be no preservation, because it is the mother tongue that we use to expose these children to our cultural things. You will tell them this is called this, this is called that. You will teach them on etiquette. You will teach them on behavior. It helps us to do what? To reform them and make them to be good citizens of this nation. When they get into secondary school, not all subjects are taught in Igbo language. They don't teach mathematics in Igbo. They don't teach physics in Igbo. They still use English. But for the core language courses, they should be taught in their mother tongue. That's what I am actually asking for. I'm pleading with the federal government to have a rethink over this policy. Thank you.
Ka ị na-anya rather ịma anyị na-anya na ife anyị na-ekwu maka ya n'ụtụtụ a. Ilu na policy shifter federal government me ilu na ọ gara enyelu ụmụazị aka maka anyị na-ekwu maka ndị nọ na ime obodo. Ilu na ọ gara enyelu fa aka in terms of exposition. And ịmakwa na federal government na-ekwu na ife eji wee kwukwa n'ihe a bụ na, in fact, federal government na-ekwu na data analysis na-egosi na that na ndị nọ na ime obodo ma ọ bụ ndị na-eji asụsụ befa kụzili ife ya na-akpọ mother tongue, ha na-aka ada ihe dịka ule akwụkwọ ma ọ bụ ife ọbụla ihe dịka WAEC or JAMB or even nke ya na-akpọ ya the first school living certificate iji wee ba na ha na-aka ada ilo na ya abụrụ inyelufe aka ime ọfụma maka ịma na most of except our local language, that's mother tongue here, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, or the Arabic exams or something like, except these languages, and they use the mother tongue, akuzi mobu, inye, ule, hawide, or something like that. But of course, it's in those other Igbo, not Igbo, but literature or English or other, integrated science, basic tech, and all that. If you know Oyibo, Keiji, akuzi, especially at a national or international, level. So in our fear na federal government and macharo teacher all these things into consideration where before how we eating war.
The English need maka ajụjụ. Ọ na-aba ajụjụ a ọ na-atọ ihe na egwu a na-agba na atọcha ma. Ihe o ji atọ ma. Ihe o ji atọ ma bụ na ndị Bible sọsọ maka ule. Ya ihe niile mbọ niile mmadụ na-agba n'ụwa bụ maka ule. Ndị tiri iwu a ọ ka mma na njigbo were ekwu ya. Ndị tiri iwu a dọọ nka ha ṅụchara ala nne ọfụma. Ka m were Igbo na-ekwu.
I wouldn't be able to translate this one.
Ọ dọọ nka ha ṅụrụ ala nne. maka mbụ ihe niile a na-eme n'ụwa abụọ maka ule mmụta na nkụziri mmadụ ihe ọ salụ mbara hinne karịa sọsọ maka ule ihe ha na-ekwu ule ha na-agba mkpụrụ mmiri ka nna ajụ ihe na-abụghị maka ule nna m ochie ọ sị na-eduka akwụkwọ na ọdịiche eduka uche ihe nna m ochie na-akpọ eduka akwụkwọ bụ edukeshọn bụ eduka akwụkwọ ihe ọ na-akpọzi wisdom bụ eduka uche ọ sị m kama eduka uche ya akọm eduka akwụkwọ kọm ya kama mma ife ya na njechara akwụkwọ dịkwa ka ewu na njechara akwụkwọ dịka ewu ma ejene na akwụkwọ ncha ọ ebe federal gọọmenti na-eje n'ihe a kịta ihe ha na-achọ ịzọpụtasị bụ ewu jicha asambodo ewu jicha asambodo ọ jọgburu ude na-esi gbuo nkakwụ ife bụ ije akwụkwọ bụ mmadụ ije mụtawanye ọ bụghị mmadụ ije gba onye nke izizi na ule nne ji ule iche a ga-akụzigoro gị ihe ị kwesịrị ịma nwee ike wee na-achịkọ nchịkọ ọfụma dịka mmadụ jegoro akwụkwọ asị na onye a is educated ịchịkọchana ule bụzi ihe dị n'isi ihe ikpeazụ mana ha bịa kịta werusi ule wee na-eti iwu a dịka iwu ndị ala na-eti unu enweghị iwe na asụsụ na-asụ atọchaghị ụtọ mana ọkụ si dị m n'obi iwu ndị ala ka ha na-etiri ndị anya dị mma
mana ị ga na-eji nwayọọ
ọ na-eri m arịrị gekwa ntị ọgwụ ka nkụzi na ebe a ekwe na-agụsịtasị ị ga-ama mgbe ndị dịkwa ka ya ma ndị kago ya ịgụ aha ole otibegoro igbo ọ na-eti ụmụ ndị nọgoro na ya karịa ya ụmụ ndị ọ tọkwara atọ ndị a bụ ndị gụgoro ihe a gosi apụkwa ha na obodo a si obodo a pụọ jee ebe ọzọ gụtakwa ya ha bata n'ọdụ sizi ya ufu onye gbara mkpụrụ mmiri pụta onweghị onye ọ ga-akpọ ọma mkpọ ndị ga-aṅa asị ha ngwa bịa ka anyị nọkọ ọnụ
ị ga-eji nwayọọ
onye nna ọ ka isi na mkpọ ha anụ na igbo ka mma na-asụ
asọrọ m gasụ n'igbo ịmago na
asụ ka mma na-okwu obi m etu nsi chọọ ikwu ndị ụmụazị ka ha na-akwado na ọ bụ maka m ụmụazị ka ha na-akwado na n'ihi maka mgbe nwatakịrị gụbara n'ụda ha si chọọ gụcha pụta ọ gụtagoji ụta asambodo na-egosi gị mana mgbe ya abịazi ka ị nwalee ya na inwe nka na uche dị ha aṅa onwe ha nke ọchị mana o ji asambodo ekenekwa m unu mana Chineke nna bi n'igwe amekwe ka ome maka na igbu obodo a gbuo ụmụazị na ọdịnihu ha were kịta gbuo ya sị na ị na-anye ha ule ka ha wee nene ọ bụ sọ maka ule ka eji eje akwụkwọ ị ga-amụtagodo akwụkwọ mmadụ ihe ọfụma wee je nene ule ekenekwa m unu.
All right. Like both of you are very much, will I say, against this policy. The Nigerian Academy of Letters, they've also called on the government to reconsider, asserting that the cancellation of the policy threatens linguistic diversity, culture, and is not consistent with research. So, Prof, can you share with us, evidence, or through the evidence the ministry reviewed? There've been lots of evidence the ministry reviewed via statistics and all that. Are there any parts of Nigeria where the mother tongue policy was working well or better, and if so, what made them different? Prof, you're very much in the education line.
The Nigerian language policy has been working in every state of this nation. By the grace of God, I'm one of the examiners of West African Examination Council, WAEC. I am one of them. I moderate the questions that are being set for these children. So also the Hausas, the Yorubas, the Efik, and others. Remember, in Nigeria, we have over 500 languages. In Nigeria, 500 dialects or whatever in Nigeria alone. And this policy recognized these three major ones, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba, and gave them that liberty that this thing should be used in teaching at that pre-level of these children. Now it has been working. Like I said, in Igbo community, this Igbo language is being used to teach strictly the language itself, Igbo language. I know that most of their subjects, they are still teaching them with English. But for the language, for the mother tongue, it has been working. It is working in Igbo land. I guess it is working in Yoruba. Go to Yoruba schools. When you enter into the 4 walls of a Yoruba primary school, you will appreciate mother tongue. They love their language so much, they speak it, the teacher, the children. You even speak English to them, it's likely they will respond using Yoruba language. And these children have been doing well in WAEC, in different subjects, including the English language that the federal government is hammering on. If there is any poor performance in English language, it's not as a result of mother tongue being used. They don't use mother tongue to teach English language. You can't say Obi is a boy, and as an English teacher, I will come and teach that child Obi Bunwoke. It is not done anywhere in Nigeria. So for English, they use English. So when it comes to examination in English language, the children are expected to do well because it is that English language that is being used to teach them. Then for Igbo, for Hausa, for Yoruba, they use that same language to teach. They use Igbo for Igbo language course, they use Yoruba for Yoruba course, they use Hausa for Hausa course. So this thing has been working effectively. I've been wondering, they may have their statistics anywhere, but a child who performs badly in English language would not say that it's because I am being taught in my mother tongue. And I don't think there is any school that teach English language with the mother tongue. If there is any school that does that, let them show us, because I am still doubting, and I'm still surprised why the federal government should come up with this reversal. I am still surprised. Is there any school in Nigeria where they teach English language in Igbo language? Is there any school in Nigeria or in Igbo land where they teach mathematics or physics using Igbo language as a medium of instruction? I doubt if there is.
All right.
So they should allow this mother tongue to please remain the way it is. They should allow the Nigerian language policy to remain the way it is.
All right. Amazi, kaini naya ebe ụlọ akwụkwọ n'ụlọ akwụkwọ a na-enwe private schools ya nke mmadụ one na one nwe enwekwọ nke public school ya nke gọọmenti etiti ma gọọmenti o nwere ike local government or gọọmenti what is their language instruction practice? How is the policy change impacting these schools, especially private schools urban areas? To how we can inculcate this mother tongue too, because even at most schools in urban areas, except no so yerika onicha mobo eba no kamo, but I miss the fact that I am going to see a bedi chebia being a line. So go to Hagesi where manage this language barrier where na-etinye ụmụta n'ime ụmụaka.
Maka ajụjụ gị, ụmụkwara ọgụ a na-anụbu maka ịgbasatala apart from policy ekwuru emere ọfụ iwepụsịrị nye olu nne na nkụzi. Ọgụ a na-anụbu bụ etu a ga-esi otu gọọmenti ọchịchị ga-esi mee ka ụlọ akwụkwọ ndị nọrọ onwe ha wee webata olu nne ọfụma n'ihe ha na-eme, maka na ihe anyị mabubu na ụlọ akwụkwọ ndị nọrọ buru onwe ha na-agbakọta ya bụ polisi dịbu adị azụ ka bụ ihe anyị nwa ma ya ọ bịara dịka asị na ọ contradictiri ajụjụ ị na-ajụ m na ha nwere onwe ha bụ ndị private na ọ bụ since na-agbakọtabu enwegodo ebe ewepụtakasị ụlọ akwụkwọ mgbe e kwuru n'ụlọ akwụkwọ gasị ụfọdụ ada akụzidi Igbo nchancharị a na-ebe na nke ahụ na-eme ọ bụza na ịbata n'ụlọ akwụkwọ ha sụọ Igbo ada agị nra ọ n'ụlọ akwụkwọ ndị n'ọrụ onwe ha ka anya bụ ala anaghị arị ya na-aghọsi ike a na-anụ ọgụ etu a ga-esi nwee gọọmenti ga-agbapụta ọkụọ hama n'elu n'isi ntu kwuo na onye ọbụla ga na-agbaso etu gọọmenti si debe nya bụ polisi ọnya bụ amụma a ga-eji na-ewebata ndị agha bụ etu ise ha nwere onwe ha n'ukwu ya etu esi na okwu nkịta ha akọrọ onwe ha aka maka na nnụnụ na-efebu n'elu na-achọ etu oyi esi be n'ala ihe oyi n'onu wee kopụ nnụnụ na-efe n'elu na-achọ etu oyi esi be na tụ n'ala ihe oyi n'onu kopụ ọtụsụ ya ozugbo ya na amụma anụnwa ewepụtara ọfụ amadị m ebe oyi anya ọkwa n'ime onunu mmụọ maka agụ a na-anọ bụ ka ma ndị private a sonye dịka etu ụlọ akwụkwọ ndị gọọmenti na nọ n'okpuru gọọmenti si na-agbaso itinye onu nne na asụsụ eji akụziri ụmụ akwụkwọ kachasị ụmụ akwụkwọ nọ na ọta akara ya na praịmarị ya na ndị ọzọ ifụna ya so nya amụma atọpụtara kịta ya atọ ndị ahụ ụtọ mana kekesekwe ndị ọcha si nọ from frying pan to fire ọ chọrọ ude na-esigbuo nkapụ ọnya bụ the true picture of etu ọ dị kịta ha na obodo ya na-emebu ya eme a na-anọ ka adọpụta ha abịazi asịkwa ha gwunyezie ka igwe ilo n'ime tụfuzie asụsụ be anyị ncha ncha ụmụazị ha na-azụta ha na-adị ka gịnị ha na-adị ka gịnị ha nwere thank you
all right, Prof, let's look at the fact. Let's look at this policy shift. Does banning this language create a barrier for students who are more fluent in their mother tongue?
Whether it will affect it?
Yes. Does it create a barrier for students who are more fluent in it? Does it create a barrier for them?
Of course.
You do not think it will actually, help them?
No. Wait. When it comes to a child development, a child should be rooted traditionally. When that child imbibes those traditional traits, characteristics, every other thing foreign will be easy to be absorbed. You need to groom a child in his or her mother tongue. Let me tell you, most like he said, in some private schools where they teach these children using English language, these children find it difficult to speak their mother tongue. Very difficult, both at home and in the school. But a child that is groomed in Igbo language, oh my God, it doesn't take her anything to learn English. He or she learns English faster than any other person. Now, this shift in this policy will affect our children drastically. I've said it. It will affect the children. It will affect the teachers. Some of the teachers were groomed or were trained in the local languages. Now you want them to start using English to teach. Well, is it not what you have that you will give? Is it not what one has that the person will give? They were all trained in local languages. Now you want them to use English to start teaching. Good. They will teach. But what will be the quality of their teaching? What knowledge will they inculcate in the brains of these children? Our children will be affected seriously. Even the federal government is talking about examination performance, global emancipation. They want to meet up with the world. Come on. Are we lagging behind? Don't we? Am I not a professor of Igbo language and I speak English? I speak Chinese? If I have opportunity to learn other languages, I can. What am I advocating for? A child should be groomed in his or her mother tongue. And when he or she is nurtured with that language, then English will be secondary. English is a foreign language. It's our second language, not our mother tongue. So whatever the federal government is doing, or whatever they thought, if they think of the good of the future of our children, they should have everything. They should revise this shift. They should revise this thing they said, because it will affect our children drastically. It will affect their performances. If you learn your mother tongue, you will be able to learn other foreign languages, in English inclusive. So making English only as the medium of instruction in all the levels of schools, primary, pre-primary, primary, to tertiary.
You don't think probably the the Ministry of Education, that's the Federal Ministry of Education, may not be able to probably they've not been able to pass across this message the way it should. Probably they're not saying, or rather they're not banning all the language, but probably they're saying for most of the courses, or rather subjects, like I just talked about earlier on, talking about basic science, talking about both science courses, social science courses, commercial courses. In fact, courses or subjects that need to be, communicated in English language should be taught in English language. But of course, you cannot use English to teach Yoruba, or you cannot use Igbo or English to teach Hausa or Igbo. So don't you think that's what the federal government is saying?
That's exactly, because I read that in over and over to understand their ground, their stand, and what they are actually promulgating. I think what they are saying is that the national language policy earlier said that this mother tongue should be used as medium of instruction from pre-nursery, meaning that they should use Igbo to teach physics, teach chemistry, but that is not what has been going on. That is not. For instance, I've been promoting the issue of teaching every subject in Igbo language, but most of our teachers, they find it difficult to do, so they still teach them in English. Now the federal government is saying, don't use your mother tongue again. Use English to teach these subjects, so that our children will be able to meet up with other nations, other competitive world, okay? No problem with that. But the emphasis we are making is that for the language, the mother tongues themselves should not be taught using English language. That's the point we're making. Our Igbo language should be taught in Igbo. For instance, when they graduate from secondary school and they move into the university, tell me if I stand to teach my students and I will say, okay, Tata, ihe gemebo mkpurapiti Igbo, A, B, C, D, E, and the child, I will ask the child to recite it or say A, B, C, D. What would that mean? Oh my God. So, federal government, I guess their stand is every other subject apart from the mother tongue should be taught in English.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's involve the Igbo evangelizer this morning. All right. Let's look at cultural identity. All right. How does suppressing local languages affect national identity and cultural pride? Koto gesi we imagono metota omenala anyị ife metụtala anyị ọfụma with the Igbo language.
Daalụ Chineke maka ajụjụ gị. Aha n'isi ndị banks na aha isi aka agbọrịọ. Aha isi aka agbọrịọ. Isi sekpọ ntị n'ihe gbasara omenala asụsụ. Ihe izizi Igbo pụtaba ihe niile kpọrọ omenala. Asụsụ na-agba onye nke izizi. Aha asụsụ bụ isi sekpọ ntị. Etu anyị bụ ndị Igbo kịta.
Because it keeps you conscious.
Ihe niile na-ekwu na asụsụ ahụ ka o si were abanye. Ndị Igbo nọkọsịa ị na-asị ka ekoro isi metụta ya. Nna gị ụtụta n'ụlọ otu ụtụtụ sị gị weta ọjị sị gị ka let us pray over this kola, and you know that this kola is bring life. This kola is bring bụkwa na amaghị asụ Igbo. Emu ka nna akwa ihe ha na-achọ iweja ha na-eweja ya ebe ọ ya abụọ bụzie apụtazie anyị aga ọjị were Igbo gọbịa. Ma ọ bụ etiri mmọnwụ pụta Mo asking, you know, who want to pass it? Mo ga memezi. Me on ala tun ba ise mo ngala. O say, "Hey, come on children, come and pass here." Obutebi bie. Mo buy. O acha bi ihe dị iche. Ihe a na-acha igosi na nke a bụ nke anyị.
Ị na-try ịkọwa kịta bụ ị na-eme ka ịkọwa kịta na
omenala.
Ya oge eme anya ịmagoro oge egbu omenala anyị.
Anyị abụrụ chi ewu Hausa. Ụmụ anyị bụkwa maka ụmụ abụọ. Na ụmụ anyị ka ha na-achọ ka ha were ewu Hausa. Ọ ebe ha na-eje ha. Ọ bịa jụọ ya ka nsi na ọjọgbu ude na-esigbuo nkakwu. Ha pụtaba ebe ahụ ha na-eje.
All right, thank you for joining us so far. We'll take a short break. We'll listen to, the street to actually hear their take on this development. And when we come back, we continue. Back to our discussion this morning right here on the discussion segment of the Good Morning Anambra, where we've had really very quality, persons to discuss this very important topic, very much connected to our indigenous languages, our mother tongue being used as a medium of instruction. Especially in schools within the country. Remember a few days ago, the federal government, gave a policy shift in the use of a language of communication across all boards, stating that going forward, English language should be the means of instruction, of course, instruction, passing knowledge across to students across all boards, from the nursery to the tertiary institution within the country. And this has been causing lots of, reactions. Of course, it has come with some positive views. It has come with some negative views. And of course, some being at the middle, not going here or there. But this morning, right here in the studio, we've had with us, persons who have come out to say that the federal government should have done better. There should have been another means of, or passing this message across. Now, Prof, you stated very well that you've been very much in the educational field. What does this National Policy on Education say about the use of indigenous languages in schools? Because since we've been talking about this, we've not been, very specific as to, we've just been trying to hold the federal government by the jugular, stating, oh, this cannot work, But, what is that specificity as to what they're saying about indigenous languages?
Yeah, the NLP 2022 says that the indigenous languages should be used as a medium or means of instruction or teaching in pre-nursery, nursery school, primary school, up to secondary school. Now, the policy was stated, and it was left to the users or to the end users, who are the teachers, the school proprietors, the school management, to have done what? Make sure that those policies were all adopted. But we noticed that most schools did not adopt that policy, in the sense that they concentrated on those indigenous languages subjects, using the indigenous languages to teach those indigenous languages subjects. Now, as regards to the other subjects in the school, they were using English. But I understood that in some part of the northern part of the nation and some schools in the west, the teachers were also trying to use Yoruba or Hausas to teach some of those subjects. And there are things, to be candid, that are written in English. When you try to use an Igbo language to, translate it, you may not be able to pass the real meaning of that particular thing. So, the federal government may have observed this and now decided to have this shift, thereby making sure that from pre-nursery up to tertiary. This time around, they included tertiary. Up to tertiary, that this mother tongue should be scraped. Why English only instruction. That English should be used for all subjects. But this policy should have added, with the exception of the indigenous languages subjects.
So they were not able to specify
sure,
this.
they didn't.
And probably
It
this
looks
one of
as
the
if it's for all subjects. That's why people like we are, reacting over the thing. Let the policy be categorically stated that the English should be used for subjects that are not indigenous languages subjects. For instance, you can't use English
to teach Igbo.
No. It is not possible. You will lose so many things. You will lose so many nuances about the language. Do we talk about the culture? How will you use the English to teach proverbs, idioms, anecdotes? How will you use? You will lose a lot about the cultural nuances. So they should look at that policy and add that this should be used as a medium of instruction at whatever level they want, with the exception of subjects like Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Efik, these ones that are being taught in this school, at all levels in the schools.
Okay.
So that's my
all right. Thank you
that.
very much, Prof. Mazi, kainanya ke step ke ife government nwere ike ime ka afọ na educators and parents, na ha protect this mother tongue, especially n'ụlọ akwụkwọ. Ka government nwere ike ime.
Nsogbu anyị na-enwe n'obodo anyị bụ Nigeria bụ na gọọmenti na-adị etibe iwu. Sọsọ ihe ha na-arụ n'elu ụwa, onye nke etikwa ha keta onye ọbụla na-agba kirikiri. Ọ sị iti iwu, mana ha tichi iwu. Ha da-agbazi mbọ fụ na etu esi ti iwu na-edoberie na ndị etirie dobezirie ka ha si wee tie. Onye bụ nsogbu a na-enwe. Ọ bụrụ na ọ na-aba ha tie, ha bịa nyenye anya fụ na ndị etiri iwu a na-agbasue. Ịma na ya na-enwe nsogbu. Ọkwa ifuge. Mana kịta abụọ ọjọọ anọ na mgbago aha ti iwu a etisi ya. Ndị nọ na ndịda a na-agba kirikiri. Iwu a bụrụ ha na-atụ n'ala. Ọ gbasaghị gọọmenti. Ọ bụrụ na ha meziara nabata iwu ahụ bude mmadụ onye nabatara ya, mmadụ onye budode, o nwere ike ọ bata n'ala Igbo ana Igbo maka ndị be anyị nwere nnọọ anyị pasịrị ọfụma na ifolo na nsonye ọkwa Igbo mgbe nwa ndị sonyere ka Igbo anyị na-erube isi ọfụma mana etisi ya kịta na-efesa na mgbe e burie nachi ya na gbara ohere ka obodo dị ka obodo ugwu Hausa, ịfụ na ha obu ihe na-akọ ka ha na-emere onwe ha ihe nke iche. Ọ bịawo ihe federal gọọmenti, so-called federal gọọmenti ma even steeti gọọmenti na-eme maka ya. Onwe ha na-eme maka ya.
Onwe ndị ga-abụ anaghị afụ na n'ugwu Hausa, imago this is a region that actually does struggle with performing well in education, and this actually collaborates with what the ministry, the Federal Ministry of Education is very much stating. But finally, we've got very short time to discuss. Let's look at solutions. How best, Mazi? How best should the federal government look into this development? How best should they bring balance?
Dịka ọka nkụzi kwuru, ọ bụghị na ha dara iwu site n'ise si welizie oyibo na-akụzikọtasị ihe n'ime ekpi, mana ọ bụ ha tinye iwu ahụ ha jekwa na-enyekwa anya fụ na ndị na-akụzi ihe a na ha nwere onye nwọsị nọ ata, na ha nwere ata iji wee nwee ike ọzụzụ ikwucha anya ncha ọzụzụ ahụ. Onye ka njikwa na na-abụ ihe ha na-eketa oke bụsi iti iwu, mana otu anyị esi wee nwee agamnihu na ya bụ ha tinye iwu ha eje gbaa mbọ fụ na ka federal na-agba, ka steeti na-agba, ka lokal gọọmenti na-agba, a na-azụlitekwa ndị nkụzi ka ha wee nwee ike inwe ata iji wee mee ya dị ka iwu si wee dị. Na ọ bụ ihe itichi iwu ịkwado ezi ndị na-agba ọkpakpọ ụgbọala onye mena nka, mana ụmụ ọzọ a na-enyegasị ndị na-akpọ ụgbọala ka ha gbe na-anya na moto ka ọ ya ba ha nya enwee ihe accident ma ihe ọdachi na-eme mmadụ a na-anwụ. ije hoje nyegasi ọzọ tigasi emu ihe ma ihe signpost dịgasị anya na ebe dị etu a dị etu a onwe ihe mejọ ọsịsị onye ahụ makwana ka enwe accident otu a ọ ya ka ha na-ekwu ya ha ga-eje na-ejebe tigasi ọzụzụ dị anya ma ndị isi ụlọ akwụkwọ ma ndị na-akụzi akụzi ọnọkọtakwa sef ụmụ akwụkwọ na onwe ha kwa eyikwa ihe ya abịa ihe na-abụ ọsọsọ classroom work ụmụ akwụkwọ abụọ jos mgbe ụfọdụ eyikwa ihe dị ka semina ga-agwa a na-akọwa ihe eji emere unu o jizi akụziri unu n'ụda n'ọkwọrụ maka ihe a ka eji akụziri n'ụda ya onye nkụzi bata na-eme ihe dị etu a sị na ha emebu ya mbụ ọ maka ka e wee achivuo ihe a nọ ya ka eji eme ụdị a bụ n'ebe ndị ọcha ka ị na-afụ ya aha afụ ya ebe a na ahụ acha ga-enye aka ka ihe a na-ekwu ya bụ amụma wee nwee ike wee ya mere.
Prof, let's look at, like I asked, Mazi, balance. Because sometimes when policies like this come up, we see attack. How can the federal government, bring balance to these policy shifts?
Okay, I had expected Dr. Tunji Alausa to have engaged all the stakeholders, even though I know that where he made the statement was on education conference. But there should have been a round-table discussion on this, because a lot of us would have given him an insight. When you are not well informed, you will be deformed. So one solution is this. They will look at this new policy and make sure they state it very well, excluding the indigenous languages, which must be taught using their particular immediate environment language. That's one solution. Then the second solution, that these teachers who are not supposed to use English to be teaching all subjects should also be taught. They should be trained. So a teacher who studied Christian religious knowledge was taught or was trained using English. But how proficient is she in English language? So they should be exposed to trainings. They should be exposed to seminars, like Mazi said. They should be exposed. Federal government should be ready and have this. Maybe take it to the education stakeholders at the grassroots. The teacher, you can't give what you don't have. A teacher who cannot speak correct English, I wonder how that teacher will be using English to teach all the subjects. That would be a misnomer. And those students, at the end of it, will still not do well, because the federal government is interested in the examination performance and global visibility, but we can't achieve it when the main people who are supposed to inculcate the knowledge on the children do not have anything to offer.
Right.
So that's another solution.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Nkechi Chinyere Nwokoye, who is the Vice President, Igbo Studies Association, and also a former member of the UNIZIC Governing Council. Right, she has lots of accolades attached to that. Also, she is also a Chinese language, would I say expert too?
Yeah.
You speak Chinese.
Sure.
Say something in Chinese. Say, wow. Okay, I didn't get that. All right, we also have Obi Nwunye, also known as Onyoziomi Igbo, who is also known as the Igbo evangelizer. From his statement, you see he's someone who actually bears the Igbo heritage at heart. Thank you both for doing justice to this topic this morning. All right, my name is Obina. My name is Obina. Next is Catch the Bus this morning. Stay tuned while we share with you really trending, stories that had actually trended during the weekend.